following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Star Wars fans rejoice. The Mandalorian Season 2 kicks off in just a couple of days. We're going to break down our last-minute predictions. And where the hell was the Darksaber? That's all we want to know. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes.
Kanye West says that the prequels are better than the sequels. Who gives a what Kanye has to say? We're going to talk about it anyway and see if his arguments are as flawed as his presidential campaign.
And happy Halloween! We are picking our top scary Star Wars moments for a force-filled, spooktacular show. BTBD Live starts right now.
From the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, you're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
Yeah, who gives a bleep what Kanye has to say? That's what we're talking about here on BTBD Live, episode 94. Glad you're with us wherever you can be watching or listening. Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. You can always catch us live on YouTube Wednesday nights, and I am joined with my fam, the good people, the beautiful people, the best people in the Star Wars galaxy. Miss Arezou Amin, how are you doing, Arezou?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. A lot of energy, a lot to be thankful for on this Wednesday. Nothing's going to hold me down. Pete Fletcher, maybe the best looking silver fox on the internet.
Stop. It's true, but stop. I mean, it's a little much, but I appreciate it. How you doing, man? I was just going to say, I was so excited. I feel like watching that intro with Arezou doing part of the lead, I feel like we're a team now. It's 3 weeks in, we're a team.
We're a team. We're like the Justice League, but it's like Star Wars. But maybe we're like, I don't know. I think what we should do, we should be like bounty hunters, right? With the Mandalorian theme.
Sure.
I'll be Cad Bane, or maybe you're Cad Bane, and maybe I'm like young Boba.
I'll be Aura Singh.
Yeah, well, that's badass. You guys are really cool, and I'm just like this brat who's like, give me attention, which might be oddly ironic. Hey, so it's BTB Live, episode 94. So glad that we're able to have a Star Wars conversation with you this week. A lot to dive into, like we've already explained. The one thing, real quick though, Mando Monday dropped. Holo Chronicles guys, Andy and Josh really dove into it, but just to kind of open things up this week and let us know if you're in the live chat. Let us know if there is something that you have your eye on. But we got the first Mando Monday, and oh my goodness, the Black Series goodness. I might have pre-ordered the $50 Scout Trooper with child in sack with child punching ability. Although I looked at, you couldn't take it off. So like it wasn't like $35 without the child punching ability. But nonetheless, that's what I might have gotten. And I might have gotten the Jar Jar Binks figure too. I might have done that as well. Yes. Pete, do you have a collectible that you're eyeing from Mando Monday?
There's always something good. The only thing that I pre-ordered was the vintage collection Boba Fett, which I think is also the one that has the very strange looking Pedro Pascal head underneath the helmet. But I pre-ordered that, and you know what I was really excited about, oddly enough, was those the figures that looked like the 1970s version with the vinyl capes and things. I thought those were weird but cool. So I thought it was a great Mando Monday.
The retro figures are super fantastic, especially the robe that Mando has. It harkens back to what Vader had and Obi-Wan had in those original Kenner figures. So very cool there. Arezou, is there anything that caught your eye?
I'm waiting for future Mando Mondays because hopefully, when the spoiler stuff is gone, I really want a Dr. Pershing Funko Pop.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping he comes back and gets his own Funko.
Dude,
nothing from this round, but maybe going forward.
So there's not one yet, but we're hoping that there will be. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. No, I'm not announcing anything. I'm just hoping that they make one. And then maybe down the line, they'll make an Omero one too, because I would like that as well.
That's funny. Arezou Amin just comes on the show, starts busting down breaking news for toys.
Breaking news. Dr. Pershing Funko that only one person wants, and that person is me.
Yak Face has nothing on us. Damn it. We're great. Okay. I'm really happy. It's been a really rough 48 hours, and I'm just really happy to be talking Star Wars. We got a lot of goodies. Before we jump into the first topic of the night, I just want to dive into the live chat. Just shout out all the good people that are with us, giving us their Wednesday night. We got Framey, we got Gilster, we got Nick. All remaining systems is in the live chat. We got Gallinorian, Saber. We've got a few others in here. Matthew H is with us. So really exciting. Glad that Matthew has his power back because he didn't have his power like an hour ago.
Yeah.
So he's in the live chat. So listen, we're just going to do this. We're going to do this probably every topic. We're just going to ask that right now. you take a minute and you share our live show on your Facebook and Twitter account right now. Just go ahead and do it. We're all going to do it right now. We're going to retweet. I just did it right before the show. I retweeted it and I put us on Facebook. Do us a favor. Do the same thing. We got like 10 people in the live chat right now. Let's get it up to 20 by the end of the first segment. I think the push is, let's try and do 35. I'd love to get to 35 by the end of the show tonight. I think that's a great goal to have. But of course, the number isn't the priority. It's about the conversation that we share together. Always thankful that you're part of our Star Wars conversation. I'm going to go ahead and just kick off the first topic, if that's all right, guys. Get right into it. And you know what? Every week, I'm just getting a little bit better. I'm not flawless yet, but we're getting there. This week, this is what we're talking about. The Mandalorian Season 2 debuts this Friday, which if you're watching this live, that means we're 2 days away. If you're watching or listening to this from a week, you're late. Go watch the damn show. The Mandalorian and the child continue their journey facing enemies and rallying allies as they make their way through the dangerous galaxy in this tumultuous era after the collapse of the Galactic Empire. The series will continue to use industry revolutionary technology like the volume. Many rumors have fans filled with anticipation about which character or characters may or may not appear on screen. Again, The Mandalorian debuts October 30th. I want to open it up with this. What is the importance of this season? What is the importance of this season when we think about the casual Star Wars fan? Why does everyone need to be plugged in with what's happening on this show? Arezou, I want to start with you and talk to me about maybe how it being a standalone story is a big payoff.
So I think it was a payoff in the first season because it's standalone. It's not like jumping into Rebels where it really helps if you've seen Clone Wars first. You can just start. If you've seen the movies, you can just jump into Mando and start watching. So I think that was a really big benefit in season 1. And then now going forward in season 2, now that they've got us all hooked, now they're starting to work in those bigger story elements, like maybe Bo-Katan, maybe Ahsoka, Rex, all of them. So they're starting to work it in. So if you want to know where those characters are going, if you know who they are, then this is the place to be. If you don't know who they are, what a way to meet them. So for either like the casual fan or the TV fan, it's all coming together in Mando now. Plus, why wouldn't you want to see Baby Yoda every week?
Well, I think that's
everywhere.
That's a really great point. And there's a lot of people who believe that the baby, the child, is going to be captured at some point along this second season. And I think the child is what brings in a lot of the casual fans with this series. And I think so does the visual effects. I'll talk about that in a second. But Pete, I think it's really important that season 2, we want to make sure that season 1 didn't make the series a one-hit wonder, right? Like we want this, we want to show consistency with the second season.
Yeah, I think that to me is one of the most important things about Mandalorian season 2 is it's an opportunity to show that they can hit back-to-back home runs. I think it's a situation where because of the COVID situation, creating monster blockbuster films, a lot of those are all pushed out right for a while. It also means that there's an opportunity to build more Star Wars in Disney Plus in this environment on the small screen. And I think this season will tell us if it's something that can be consistently done, if it's something that was in fact a one-hit wonder, or if Disney Plus is a valid place to continue to tell Star Wars stories. You know, I think things like Clone Wars and Rebels, those are for hardcore fans. Not to discount them at all, but my dad, who I always use as sort of the average Star Wars fan, didn't watch that. It was not his thing. He didn't go to that depth. But Mandalorian, he watches. So can Mandalorian continue to tell stories that work in this environment?
You know, it's interesting. I had to spend yesterday at home, and I rewatched the entire first season. And I got to tell you, from start to finish, like as a whole story, man, it weaves so well. And I didn't expect that because we always talk about how we had so many directors on that first season. But it is a freaking masterpiece. It's like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour movie. It's really awesome. And to your point too, Pete, and Arezou as well, it was a blast this week because we had Pedro Pascal, Giancarlo Esposito get on Good Morning America and start kind of talking about their excitement for season 2. Something that Pedro Pascal talked about, which we have on our website right now at beyondtheblastdoors.com, is the excitement he had and the comfort he gained by reading the first script for season 2.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is this action sequence early on in this first episode, and it told him, this isn't the verbatim, but essentially he thought to himself, wow, they are going to top themselves from season 1. They were able to have success, and because of the volume and because of the vision and the people they have involved in the project, Mandalorian, what they wrote down on paper, is what you see on screen.
Yeah.
And there is something that happens early on in season 2 that's going to do that and more, which I think is a big victory for fans. And I think that we can all appreciate the fact that what drives the Mandalorian isn't the effects, isn't the that secondary stuff. Like, it's definitely like story driven first. Do you two feel that way? Arezou, do you feel that way, that Mandalorian is something that's story driven and then everything else is just kind of gravy on top?
Yeah, I think my concern before season 1 was that it wouldn't be, and that it would be effects driven, and doesn't this look cool? But the fact that it's character, it's heart, it's story that's really driving the series, I think that was an unexpected surprise, and it's nice to hear that that's going to continue in season 2.
And I don't want to say this like I'm slamming the graphic, the special effects. I
No,
love them, and
no.
especially you Shannon. We love Shannon, and that's Shannon's niche. She plays in that world quite a bit. Not slamming like that, but I think some of the critique of the sequel trilogy has been not story first mentality. Pete, am I going off the rail here? Do you agree, disagree with what we're saying?
I think you're 100% right, and I think actually the other thing that I took from Pedro's comments was I think. And I think Arezou said this on when we all watched the trailer together. I think we've only seen scenes from episode 1. I feel like we're going to see that troop transport crashing into the wall and the jumping of the scout trooper, the speeder bikes. I think that's all episode 1, and I think it's going to be full of action top to bottom.
And I like that you guys mentioned that too. For the other point that I kind of feel like that's a recent strategy. Maybe it's not a recent strategy. They've probably been doing this with film for a long time. But remember when we got those looks at the Rise of Skywalker, it turned out a lot of what we saw was in like the first 5 minutes of the Rise of Skywalker. There was a lot of movie that we didn't get to see.
Well, and add to that the fact that, and we've seen it all over Twitter, they are not sharing preview copies of any episodes with any of the press, which you either do if A, your film sucks, and I don't believe that that's the case, or B, there's a lot of stuff you don't want leaking, and I like to believe that that's what this is about. They're holding back. Think about it this way: we haven't seen Ahsoka, we haven't seen Rex, we haven't seen Boba Fett, but we've heard about it. Those of us in this hardcore echo chamber of fans have heard about it, and we're excited for that. But we still haven't seen it. So we still have that to look forward to. So there's going to be some big secrets, I think, over the 8 episodes.
I think we're in for a lot of fun. And I listen, if what we've seen is all from, let's say, the first episode or 2, well, then my goodness, we're in store. And of course, there's a lot of rumors about characters that could appear and might not appear. But I'm just ready for Friday morning for us to be able to open up Disney Plus on our phone or on the big screen and just dive back into this world, because as big as that world kind of feels, that first season is very intimate, but I think that we're about to get launched into the greater galaxy here with season 2. I've really got a feeling about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm alone or not. I'm kind of hoping we get a little bit more rebellion play. But hey,
it would be the New Republic by this point.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you. I stand corrected. The New Republic. Yes, the New Republic will be on guard.
Like?
But,
Show us.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about Luke Skywalker and an X-wing fighter. I don't know. That's a joke. That's a rumor. That's not real. It's not a real thing. Let us know what you think. If you're watching live, be sure you let us know in the live chat. Catching us on the rewind, you can always comment down below to continue this Star Wars conversation. And don't forget, this Friday, we will have a new installment of the streaming Star Wars series. We're going to have Mandalorian Chapter 9 recap, where it's going to be a lot of faces from the network. So be sure you have notifications turned on YouTube, okay, and the Facebook page, so you're the first to find out when we hit the internet with that great conversation. It's going to be about 20-ish minutes. We're where we're just going to hit you with all the good stuff from that episode. And it should be a lot of fun. I know, Pete, you're also really excited to bring this back to the network.
Yeah, no, I think streaming Star Wars has always been a lot of fun for David and I, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna expand it to the full Beyond the Blast Doors network. You're gonna see different faces every Friday, and it'll probably be look for it probably around 1:00 this Friday, 1:00 Eastern time, and we'll be chatting it up about the Mandalorian. We're going to look for your comments like we do during Beyond the Blasters Live, and we're looking forward to hanging out with you and just being complete and total nerds over the Mandalorian.
Us
Can't
nerds?
wait. Well, I mean, I speak for myself. I don't know if it's everybody, but
It's one of those. It's going to be a conversation where you can definitely have a beverage. Well, I don't know if you actually want to be
maybe
drinking
not
at
at
1 p.m.
in the afternoon. Might be
Well,
tough, but
it depends on where you are on the globe. You know, it's
That's
5
true.
o'clock somewhere.
Shannon
That's
may
what-
be joining us. That'll be in the evening in the UK, so she could be on a Friday night. Who knows what she's going to be up to? So.
Heck yeah.
Rude to let her drink alone. So.
It would,
Oh my
that's,
goodness.
that's fair, Arezou. Very fair.
Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here on BTB Live episode 94. So glad you're with us. By the way, we are at 16 in the live chat. So glad that you're with us tonight. Do us a favor right now, if you don't mind, and share our show on your social media. Let the people know that they can join this awesome, fun Star Wars conversation live every Wednesday. We're all inclusive, not exclusive. We just like to have fun, and we're not too proud of ourselves. You know, some people are, but we're not, because frankly, I'm in my spare bedroom doing this show, so I don't take myself too seriously. Hey, what's going on in the world right now? Well, I'll tell you this. Kanye West is in the headlines. Surprise, surprise. You might have noticed he's on your presidential ballot, which is freaking weird 2020. But hey, he's also in the news because he's talking about Star Wars. He was recently on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and he let the world know that he prefers the prequels over the sequel trilogy. He said this, and this is about to make me mad right here. First time you've seen me get mad in an interview.
Uh-oh.
They said that George Lucas prequels were worse than the corporate-made Disney Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith, we saw how Darth Vader was made. I watched that like 10 times during COVID. Don't jump, Anakin. I've got the high ground. This honestly kind of sounds like a song that Kanye would write. It, it's got people fired up, obviously, guys, because there's always that division of, what's better, the original trilogies, the prequel trilogies. Obviously, we talk about the divisiveness in society, in the film industry, in the Star Wars fandom. But it's kind of bizarre. It's not really news. Like this is a non-story, but we have a presidential candidate technically going on the Joe Rogan podcast and proclaiming his love for the prequel trilogy. I don't like Kanye West as like a celebrity, but I'm all about some prequel love, man. Like I'm all about it. Pete, am I a bad person for bringing this up on BTBD Live 94? Is this a bad decision on my point as a producer?
No, as I said in the opener, I don't care what Kanye West has to say, but what I think is hilarious is that the Fandom Menace people, not the Phantom Menace, but the Fandom Menace people, have taken to supporting Kanye's perspective here and using it as more ammo. No offense, ammo, but using it as more ammunition for their narrative that the sequels suck and the prequels are fantastic. Keeping in mind that a lot of these people hated the prequels 20 years ago, so here's my perspective. If you're using Kanye West's opinion as support for your argument, maybe reevaluate your argument.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I just and to be fair, I should probably read the other part of the quote. He said, I'm saying even the prequels are better than anything, and I'm sorry, Disney Star Wars design team. This is George. This is his baby. That thing was set in his heart to show us as children the hero's journey. And then he also did have a brief mention of like the connection between like just Luke and how he identified with that character. So, and I think what it shows, and at least this is why I was into it, was we kind of all have an intimate connection with a lot of characters in the franchise. You latch on to one character, I latch on to another. Arezou, maybe there's a character that you really saw something of yourself in them, and that's what allowed you to be connected with the saga. I think it's nice to see the human side. Like, again, I think that Kanye is like a terrible artist. I don't like his work. I don't enjoy it. But I did watch the David Letterman interview with Kanye West, and it made me respect him as a human being. I'm not gonna lie, showed that he has like a good warm heart side. So I'm digressing. I guess I'm trying to defend myself because I feel like I just tore the man down, and maybe he doesn't deserve that. But
Well, don't worry.
Arezou,
If he's watching, he'll let you know.
well, yeah. Listen, if I get called out in like a diss track next year, I'm saying that's like negative
That's a
publicity
win.
is still publicity. Yeah, it's still a win. Arezou, am I missing the bigger point here? What do you think is important when we're talking about Kanye's take on the prequels over the sequels?
So I know a lot of people like Kanye West music. It's not my style of music, but I respect him as an artist, less as a person because of his antics during a very important presidential election. But my whole thing with his opinion, I'm like, that's great. That's your opinion. I love that we are past the prequels are bad. I'm glad we are past as a society, as a fandom, we are past. Well, I like the prequels. I know. Like, I'm glad we're past all that. But you have to consider if the way you're phrasing something is making the fandom menace latch on.
Yep.
Phrase it differently. And I also, what caught my attention in his comments was going, well, the corporate Disney sequels. I'm going, okay, fair. It's George's vision, and that's fine. But you can't not call them corporate when I have vivid memories of being unable to buy like a fountain drink without like a scratch off Darth Maul thing on it. Like it was everywhere during the prequels. So I get it's not corporate made versus merchandising. I get that, but let's not pretend the prequels were like indie movies that nobody saw.
I'm with you. Lords of the Long Box in the live chat says Revenge of the Sith greater than Return of the Jedi. Yes, I said it. And I honestly would agree. I'm a big prequel lover. I loathe Attack of the Clones. Like I've talked about this before. When I rank the movies, I put Attack of the Clones at like the Earth's core. That's how deep I want that filth to burn. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, Arezou. I think you're solid, and I think the thing that we had to keep in mind, and I think this is beyond just Star Wars. Everyone gets their opinion, and on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, he's being asked what he thinks. So that's what he thinks, and he gets that take. I really don't think that Kanye is worried about the fandom menace. I think that we shouldn't be worried about the fandom menace because it's like Voldemort. You know, like the more you fear it, the more power you give them, and they're just douches. So we're not worried about them. But I can respect the take. I like his reasoning because it's something that honestly like I relate to. I think I feel more connected to the original trilogy and the prequels because I know that was the story that Lucas penned, and I know that his story had some influence maybe on the sequel trilogy. Now his lack of involvement with the sequels, I still can enjoy some of the movies. I still enjoy Force Awakens. I like elements of the other two movies. But I think it's interesting that, yes, we are at that point, Arezou, where there is that prequel love. And, you know, we think about, I just mentioned at the top of this episode, guys, I'm buying a freaking Jar Jar Binks Black Series figure for $24.99 because it's cool. Like Jar Jar is cool.
Everyone's coming around to Jar Jar.
Took 20 years, but they're there. Yep.
It took him 20. Well, yeah. I love this. I love that quote from Liam Neeson where he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about, people, because like I was on set and I thought he was the funniest dude on the set. You know, he's like,
yep.
This guy's great. You know, so I wish we would all have mentality. It looks like 20 years later we do. Again, I'll fully admit this was a non-news story, but it was kind of fun to talk about. What do you think about Kanye spouting off his love for the prequel trilogy? Should he turn that faucet off? Or should he unwind and let that flow all over?
I do want to say one thing though. I don't think it's. I think the problem is. Love what you love, and that's awesome. And I've come around on the. Ken Knapsack's I'm a reformed prequelist. I'm totally with him on that, and I get that point of view. To me, it's Kanye West saying something, and the fandom menace and people who hate the sequels latching on to anything they can grab onto to hate the sequels. And look, again, at the end of the day, it's you love your Star Wars, go for it. Don't spend energy hating people for not liking the same thing as you. That's asinine.
He has spoken.
He has spoken.
Well, hey, I don't want to talk about them people no more, so we're going to move on to the next part of the show. And this is what are we going to talk about? Oh, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, hey, that's right. We're going to take a quick break. And we're going to step aside, but we're going to have Marie Wilson join us, and she's actually going to be talking to us about comics this week, because as we do always, it is time for Beyond the Panel. We'll be right back.
Dave, I can't
David.
hear you.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Dave.
Can you hear me now? That was freaky. That was like 2020. That was like my whole life. Oh my gosh.
If you muted your whole system, maybe it muted the video too.
I don't know. That was embarrassing. I apologize, people. Like, listen, I'm not that stupid when it comes to this. Like, I know I'm sometimes I really struggle, but my goodness, let's try this again. All right. Oh, look at this. I think I figured it out, fam.
Yay.
Oh, audio? You guys hear it now?
See, I can hear it now.
Okay, we're gonna go away. It's that time of the week again to go beyond the panel. Marie Wilson from BeyondTheBlastDoors.com joins us. Marie, so good to see you. How are you doing this week?
I am doing fabulously.
Fabulously splendid.
Yes.
I just watched, that just reminded me of this Bly Street, something horror thing on Netflix. And the little girl it's perfectly splendid. That's what that just reminded me of. But hey, we're not here to talk about horror, although it is our Halloween episode. But let's talk about Star Wars comics, because that's what we like to do, Marie. And this week, the big comic is Dr. Aphra #5. And, I just have this love-hate relationship with Aphra because it's fun, but sometimes I feel kind of disconnected from the galaxy. Marie, if no one's following Dr. Aphra, this second series or second volume of Dr. Aphra, what do we need to know about what's happening in her world?
So she is, after the rings of Vale, there's a ring of eternal life and a ring of fortune. And her new crew has come together to try to get those rings. But Ronan Tag, a relative of Cassio Tag, wants the rings for himself so he can destroy them so no one else can ever have them.
Okay.
And in this issue, we get the deal that Aphra set up in the previous issue. She said she was going to make a deal with Ronan. And so she presents her deal, and beneath the surface of the deal, we know there's some devious stuff going on because it's Aphra. So there's got to be some kind of twist happening. She can't be that heartless. And so it all turns out pretty awesome in the end.
I love how you said that. But by the end, it gets better. I want to ask about, for someone who is, not following this series, what would you say like the overall impact of this comic would be? If I'm a casual fan, what are the things that I can look forward to that will get me excited about it? Like, does it really impact like the main storyline, or are we playing somewhere, in the different part of the galaxy?
Well, in her second series, it's not near as connected as the first series was. The first series was connected with Darth Vader, with the Rebel base on Hoth, and all those things. This second series is a little more separated from the rest of the galaxy.
And would you say that if you think about this issue, what is the one panel that makes it worth me going to my local comic book shop and picking up this comic for a couple of bucks?
So my favorite panel was actually Ronan Tagg's aunt, Lady Domina. There's this big panel of her. It's sort of back a little bit, and she's in the distance staring out a view window on a spaceship, and she just looks ethereal, and it was kind of dreamy looking. And then the next panel is her facing the front of her, and she just looks powerful and intense, and I'm really excited to see where we go with Lady Domina.
I'm really
Or
excited
it's
too. And, and again, kind of going to my point, it's not a series that I'm diehard on. I know that she's maybe your favorite, Marie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's why I always enjoy this conversation, is because you're able to keep me up to date on the books that I'm not following as much. If you were to rank the comics that are coming out right now, you have a lot, right? You have Charles Soule's Star Wars mainline. You have the Greg Pak Vader. You have Alyssa Wong's Dr. Aphra that we just talked about, and a few others, the Star Wars Adventures. What is the run right now that is keeping your interest the most? What is the comic that we need to be all following right now?
I'm gonna have to say Darth Vader. It's so weird because I always say, how can there be more Vader stories? But it's such a good series. The most recent one surprised me because I thought it was just gonna be punishing of Vader and kind of weird, but it ended up having a depth to it that was totally unexpected, and it was scary. So so I would definitely say the Vader run.
I can roll with that for sure. And I'd have to agree with you. I guess I'm biased. I'm surprised because as much of a fan as I am of Charles Soule, I'm kind of surprised that I'm not picking the main Star Wars run. But I think I've said it a few times on Beyond the Panel. A lot of exposition, and I just think that Gregory Pak is just really fully immersed himself in this Vader run. So I'm really enjoying that. Before we go, I know coming up next week, well, believe it or not, we're gonna be in November. Scary how 2020 took like 37 years to wrap up, and now we're almost at the end of the actual year. But we have Star Wars number 8, Tarkin's Will Part 2. We'll also have Star Wars Adventures, The Shadow of Vader's Castle, another Kevin Scott story. And then you got a couple, we don't really talk about the other books, but you also have, like, From a Certain Point of View coming out around that time. Pablo Hidalgo has the Complete Vehicles book coming out. So there's a lot of cool literature that you can pick up. And of course, your comic books, we always want to encourage you to pick those up at your local comic book shop. Marie, before I let you go this week on Beyond the Panel, anything that you want to throw out there that we haven't discussed already?
No, I think we covered it.
You know what? We just have a fully comprehensive conversation here on Beyond the Panel. We talked a little bit about what Marie liked about this latest issue of Dr. Aphra, but she didn't give away all the goodies. If you want to get her spoiler-filled review, you can find that right now at BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. You can always find Marie's reviews every Wednesday afternoon on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Marie, thanks as always for your time.
Thank you so much.
Always appreciate Marie Wilson stopping by to talk about comics, to go beyond the panel. It's what we do every week on BTB Live. You're watching episode 94 live. And I've got my good friends, Arezou and Pete Fletzer, back with me for some more Star Wars talk. And before we go on to the third topic tonight, Pete, you're actually going to have a review of that one of those books I mentioned there at the end of that, Empire Strikes Back Point of View, right?
I will. Yes, I will. So we'll be able to talk about that next week, which will be great. Next Wednesday, we'll have a.
Did I say that right?
That.
Did I get you in trouble just now?
Looking for. Not in trouble, but we don't have enough people watching to get me in trouble, probably.
What did I do wrong?
Yes, I will.
I thought you were gonna have the book next week. We could talk about it. Jeez, I thought I did that right. I'm sorry, guys. All right, let's go on to the next topic. I just feel like I should get up and leave. All right, let's talk about the next topic here on BTB Live.
Don't go anywhere.
Episode 94. John Boyega says he would love to see Finn's Act Star Wars storyline get told in TV or animation. He says it would have been sick to see Finn lead the rebellion as originally planned for the Rise of Skywalker. This is pretty interesting. This is a story that leaked here within the last 48 hours. John Boyega, in an interview, he's referencing Colin Trevorrow's Duel of Fate script that leaked shortly after The Rise of Skywalker. Of course, The Rise of Skywalker featured a story crafted by Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, and Finn's revolutionary storyline wasn't necessarily included. I mean, he's riding on the yak on that Star Destroyer, but it wasn't necessarily the story that that leaked from Colin Trevorrow. The exact quote is, I think Colin Trevorrow was going to tell that story. Boyega said, the concept art in the Star Wars book has that image of Finn with the blue flag, and you have the AT-ATs lined up with the tribal marks, and the stormtroopers take off their helmets. That would have been sick. That would have been dope, hands down.
Was that Scotty J-Ro that said that, or John Boyega? That sounds like something
No,
that would be sick.
No, I promise you, those were the words of John Boyega in this interview. But I think it's interesting, and I think that we can all agree that Finn, especially based on Force Awakens, is a character that kind of got left out to dry. We were led to believe, even just promotions alone of Force Awakens, you thought Finn was going to be really critical to the story. But once you get to The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, they work really hard to keep Finn as a secondary background character, if we're being really honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily, here's what happened. The Trevorrow script, did it leak? Yes. And is that like an Elseworlds situation now? Yes, it is. But Arezou, I want to start with you on this. When we're talking about the idea that John Boyega wants to see Finn's story told, that story told, the revolutionary, in TV or in animation, how do you react to that? Because just a couple months ago, John's like, I don't want to freaking talk about Star Wars ever again in my life.
I think if John Boyega wants to come back, you give him however much he is asking for, and you get him back. End of story. Because, okay, so I think the one thing that people who hated The Rise of Skywalker, who love The Rise of Skywalker, one thing everybody can agree on is that Finn did not have much to do. And the common thread among everybody seems to be, but what about this Stormtrooper rebellion that came from Trevorrow's script, which is the only part of Trevorrow's script that I actually like. Granted, I haven't read it, but I've read the story points, and it's the only story point that I liked. So I think there is a lot to tell there. I think that is a very compelling story. I also think that if you tell that story in TV, you'll have a longer time to tell it. You can devote more time just to Finn and the other stormtroopers and sort of give them their due. And then also, just for my own personal taste, you can walk back the Rise of Skywalker idea that it's only the special Force-sensitive stormtroopers that can break their conditioning and rebel. I think that's interesting. Because that seemed to be the implication. Well, at least that was what I took from it.
Right. And what do you say from the Trevorrow script, the whole Stormtrooper rebellion, that was a real highlight for a lot of fans.
That was real what?
I would say that was a real highlight from the story, right?
Yeah, like that's the one thing that, that Last Jedi fans thought was coming. That's one thing that, people who read Trevorrow's script would have liked to see. That is the thing that unites us in this post-sequel trilogy era. Is whatever you think about the rest of it, that Finn deserved a Stormtrooper rebellion. He deserved, he was the one who saw that something was wrong here and broke out and joined the rebellion. And he can't be the only one, because they make a huge point of saying that these are child soldiers, that they were indoctrinated from an early age, that they were torn from their families. But then by the end of episode 9, they are gleefully killing bunches of them.
Yeah.
Instead of leading them into rebellion. So
and then
that was a story I think we wanted to see, and we didn't.
Wasn't there a thing too where some were like Force sensitive?
That's the thing is Janna and her whole crew are all like, we felt the Force and we put our weapons down. I'm like, okay, so the Force sensitive kids are good enough to break their conditioning and the rest aren't. So we're putting a lot of importance on the Force and not a lot of importance on, I like Force sensitive Finn. Let's make that thing clear. I like that part. But let's also, not sit here and say that only the Force sensitive stormtroopers are worthy of redemption, of breaking out of the system. I don't like that.
And I think it's interesting what you're saying too, is because we're thinking about stormtroopers as individuals, which when we go and watch the original trilogy, we're never thinking that way.
Right.
We're not really necessarily thinking that way when we see the prequels either, because at that time, then we're just dealing with the clones. I think it's interesting how, I think that's one thing that the sequel trilogy did, for me at least, and I think a lot of fans, was like show that there's like a lot more potential for somebody under that armor that we can kind of empathize with in a way. Pete, what do you think the shift here is a result of? I mean, I mentioned it just a minute ago. Boyega pretty much sounded like he was writing off Star Wars and done with the franchise. He was bitter with how his character and a lot of the characters that brought diversity to the story were kind of shelved. What do you make of this?
I would love to know exactly what it was that switched his direction, because I mean, it was literally a month and a half ago where he was talking about, nope, I'm done with Star Wars. Finn got shafted. I'm not interested in going back to that. And then suddenly it's a couple things. Number one, I think Matt Harrington said it in the chat. He recognizes it's a gravy train, right? And don't shit on Star Wars if it's going to potentially bring you money in the future, right? So that makes that there's that. But even more interesting is the Disney Plus thing. He even said, there's a quote from him saying, "Don't Disney Plus me, bro," or something like that, right? And now he's talking about going back to that. I think it's a couple things. Number one, I think every actor in Hollywood, I don't care who you are, unless you have Tom Hanks money, you're not turning away any potential job. And I think they recognize that, hey, if Kenobi's going into shooting, Disney's found a way to continue to create content. Let's do it. I'll give a voice to it. Voice acting is a big way for actors to continue to work. So I think it's an interesting turn. I love John Boyega. I support John Boyega. And I totally agree with him that Finn got the short end of the story. But I don't know how I feel about this turn. It just doesn't feel it kind of, in a way, and this might be a hot take, but it kind of negates some of the stuff he said before, and it makes you wonder what side of his mouth he's talking about. And I hate to put it that way, because I really like John Boyega, but geez, I mean, it'd be like if all of a sudden I started saying that, never mind, The Rise of Skywalker was my favorite film of all the Star Wars movies. I would be full of crap. And so I don't know where he's coming from.
Well, I think that's interesting. I don't think that this takes away anything from the racial disparity or the
without a doubt. Nope.
And I don't think that's what you're saying at all.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that's what you're saying at all. But I think that's where a lot of his anger and frustration comes. And according to what he says, there's a lot of actors from the sequel trilogy who feel similarly. Mm-hmm. I think that when you devote 6-7 years to a character, I think there's always going to be a piece of you that wants that character to have gotten the best story possible.
Without a doubt.
And so he's probably looking at he's probably still just thinking to himself, I want Finn to have that, because Finn means more than just a stormtrooper to a lot of other Star Wars fans.
And the one thing that I will also make sure to add to this piece of the conversation is we live in clickbait world right now, whether it's selling magazines or selling clicks to your website. The GQ, was it GQ? It was a GQ article.
Mm-hmm.
It's GQ.
Yeah, it rode on the fact that he's become and emerged as a great voice for Black Lives Matter and the entire movement, and that's fantastic. But what better way to sell more copy than to be the person who runs with John Boyega says, I want to do Finn again. I mean, that's that. So we don't know the full story. We got the quote. It's a hot quote. It works. It's got us talking. It's got the fans engaged. And look, I would love to see Finn. And I think I said it a couple of weeks ago on either this show or maybe my own show, but Daisy Ridley will never turn her back, and should never turn her back on Rey, because that's where her future may be as well. I mean, not too many people saw Murder on the Orient Express, I'm sorry to say. And well, you did, Arezou, but so never, I think maybe he got some advice from somebody that said, look, never turn your back on the Star Wars franchise, because it's always going to be there for you. It's always good to have. And that's great. And I want him to come back as Finn. I want to see more Finn.
I'd like to see General Finn of the New Republic. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Well,
I would say for in defense of no, I just want to say in his defense, Pete, to be fair, like a month after Rise of Skywalker, if you're asking him, do you want to do this again? I'm like, no, because I'm exhausted.
Sure.
And he'll say like, no, because whatever. But I think his whole thing is he'll come back as Finn if Finn is the focus of the story, as he should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe that's where the change of mind was, is he's not going to come back to play second fiddle to anybody else.
But I would argue that I think if you talk to Harrison Ford 15, 20 years ago and said, we're going to do a Han Solo movie, he'd say, not with me.
Well, it wasn't with him.
because of course that's more recent because of age. But even I think if they did it in 1990, I think he was committed. Now the big difference between Harrison Ford and John Boyega is Harrison Ford didn't do Pacific Rim 2, so so he has more options.
Ouch.
So
Ouch.
I'm losing people here, I know, but this is kind of this is the way I kind of see it.
Hey, I think I've said this a few times. Here's my cop out to this kind of conversation. I would love an Elseworlds comic book that was the Colin Trevorrow script, and I would love that as like a big graphic novel. I think that could be a lot of fun. We mentioned it. One of my favorite graphic novels is the original screenplay of Star Wars.
Yes, I
that
think
Lucas
that's so
wrote.
cool. Yeah,
And it's really cool. And I think you can appreciate it as a fan, as a storyteller, that you see how the story evolved. You see, so that's how he became Han. So, Luke is actually, okay. That's really fun. I think if you go and see that original version and see like, this is the foundation of Rise of Skywalker. Okay. You can kind of see, the formation of what we all ultimately got from JJ and Chris Terrio. So that's what I would like to see. I don't think you should leave out the power of a graphic novel, but I understand. Yeah. If you could somehow transform it into animation, something for Disney Plus, I understand that there's an audience of millions of people there clamoring for more content. What do you think about all of this? John Boyega coming out and saying, we need more Finn. Of course we want more Finn. Will we get more Finn? We're not quite sure, but let us know what you think down in the comments section. You can also let us know on Twitter all the time to continue the Star Wars conversation at BTBD Star Wars. The final topic for episode 94 of BTBD Live, we have the scariest moments of Star Wars. So here's the premise. Halloween is coming up. It's on a Saturday this year. Woo. And we were thinking, what better way to celebrate than to pick out our favorite scariest moments of Star Wars. And this can be in the movies, this can be in the animated series, the comics. We kind of pull from all over, and we just thought this would be a kind of a fun way to wrap up the show. Because you know what? Some people like to be scared. I personally don't. I mentioned earlier that I watched a horror story thing on Netflix with my wife. I had to hold her hand the entire time because I am chicken shit. And I'm allowed to say that on the show because Pete has already said shit once. Now it's 3 times. Now we have a PG-13 rating.
Now, Arezou, you have to say it in your response.
Yeah. You have to find a way to fit it in.
Okay.
Oh, well, you just wasted it. Okay, that's fine. I don't know if you saw it
again. It's fine.
I was looking for the swear jar. I was trying to find. I really try and keep it PG around here. You never know who's watching. But hey, let's go ahead and start. And I think let's see, Arezou. I went to you first last time. So Pete, talk to me. What is your scariest Star Wars moment? How did you decide what is your scariest Star Wars moment?
So I tried to think about when you threw the question to us before we got on. I tried to think about it. So what is a scare? I only thought movies because comics are I don't keep up as much with them as I'd like. So I'm sure the Kevin Scott stories are awesome. The comic books that he did. But so I went to jump scares, and there are 2 jump scares in the Star Wars saga that I always think of. One, of course, is Leia and the Minox, which I still jump on. I'm still never ready for it. And of course, the Raftars in The Force Awakens when Rey's asking about what are they, and bam, one shows up. So it's very that to me, that's the scary Star Wars, and that feels more jump scary, and those are the scares that I like.
Did you notice how I tried to do the jump with the Minoc? Did you see how
that was good?
Did that scare you at all?
I was a little scared. Yeah.
I mean, did it alarm you? I mean, you don't have to lie. I mean, just generally say it did scare you.
No, it didn't scare me.
It didn't. Okay, not at all. Okay, all right. Well, I tried.
Appreciate.
I'm not very good at scaring people. I'm like the least intimidating person that you'll ever meet. Well, I think that's a great one. I think it's a classic one, and I think Empire provides a lot of those moments. It is the darkest chapter of the original trilogy, and I think that, frankly, no matter how hard George tries or a Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams, I would still argue that overall, Empire Strikes Back is still the scariest of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Bold take? Disagree there, Pete?
Well, no, I think you had the cave on Dagobah. You had R2 being eaten by the dragon snake thing in the swamp. You had some pretty scary. Geez, when I was 10 years old, I saw my hero's hand get chopped off by the big bad guy. So that's kind of scary too. So
And that had to be terrifying because it wasn't in HD, so it was all pixelated and stuff. And it just had to be that had to look like
it was in black and white. Actually, I saw that part.
See, I thought about saying that at first, but I didn't want to be a jerk. No, God, that's such a good one. I'm gonna be honest. The Rathars, I felt was like way more comedic. You know, I'm not trying to tear you apart. I just always thought the Rathars were more comedic.
Well, but I was talking more about like when it hits the window. Then she's asking what it is, and you see the tentacle thing jump right up.
Ew, that sound was disgusting in my ear. It was like warm and moist. Oh, I gotta take off my head and clean it out. That was disgusting. I cannot believe that. Oh God, that's worse than some of the sounds I made today. We don't need to get into that. Hey, Arezou, I want to talk about your scariest moment. Hopefully, it's not what just happened on the show.
Conversation is my scariest moment,
right? Because your moment is, I'm really excited about it. It's kind of taking us out of the movies. Talk about your scary moment.
So my scary moment comes from Heir to the Jedi. It's a book. Surprise, surprise. So it's the rare canon book that actually focuses on Luke Skywalker. And at one point, he goes on a mission to a planet called Fex. And there are these bugs called the skull borers that are invisible to the naked eye. Oh, God. Okay. See, that scared me. That was a jump scare. So they're, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting that. They're invisible to the naked eye until you knock them unconscious. Then you can see them. But you don't usually get the chance to go that far because they will land on your head, drill through your helmet and through your skull, and drink your brain out. So if this was in a movie, I probably wouldn't watch the movie again. Or at least not that scene. I was just fast. I can't with body horror. And the book is so descriptive in describing like the dead eyes people have after their brains have been like sucked out that I was just sitting there with like bile rising in my throat going, we just need to get through this because this book is really funny. But
you guys are both really grossing me out tonight. I'm not going to lie. You guys are very descriptive with your adverbs. I thought you'd be proud of me. I also have the Hair of the Jedi.
Yay!
I will tell you, this is
good. It's so good.
Really, because this is my least favorite canon story.
I love it.
What?
Yeah, well, it's told from the perspective of Luke, and it just doesn't work with me. This actually was not supposed to be canon. This was written before the merger. So this was like the last. Technically, this is an EU novel that they went ahead and be like, screw it, we'll bring it in. And there's a couple of inconsistencies with it. If I ever need, honestly, if I have to start a fire.
Oh
no,
might happen.
It's so cute. It's Luke being an awkward Jedi and an awkward boyfriend. It's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, I spent most of my life as an awkward man, and honestly, it just
does it not help you
home.
feel better that Luke Skywalker too is an awkward man?
No, because
does that not help?
It got so bad for Luke, he had to go to Octu and isolate for 5 years, which I'm also oddly relating to as of late. I will say this is my favorite canon story. This is Lords of the Sith. I just grabbed that by accident, so I thought I would flaunt that. But that's a lot better of a read. Okay, so also I need to make sure.
Stop it!
I'm gonna be it looks like a tongue. It looks like a green tongue thing.
But the eyes.
This is from Clone Wars. This is actually like a I want to say this was off of Geonosis, but these are like brain washing worms. These are the brain worms from Clone Wars that would infect clone troopers. The Geonosian brain worms. This episode was really intense, and I think it was 2 episodes. I think it was an arc. But yeah, it spooked me. So this was probably the best image that I could use for Arezou's scariest, spooky Star Wars moment. For myself, this is not going to be a scary. Don't worry, guys. I'm not trying to scare you with this one. But for me, this would have been 2010 or 11 when this season would have dropped. This is my scariest Star Wars moment. You can disagree with me. But finding out that Darth Maul was back from the dead and he was like this mechanical spider thing, it really messed with me because this was one of those moments where, as a Star Wars fan, I really was going, wow, they're really effing this up. They're really trying to rewrite the story that George wrote. And it frustrated me. And keep in mind, the decision to bring Maul back in Clone Wars was pivotal in the Clone Wars success with fans, I think, because the first 2 seasons were kind of slow goings. You got to see some cool space battles. There were like things here and there were really spectacular, but Filoni and crew really found their groove with season 3. You bring in Maul. Eventually, you get Savage Opress. You get the Night Sisters. You get Mother Talzin. You really get to explore like this magical, mystic side of the galaxy. And it really expanded what I allowed Star Wars to be. And, you know, because we all have headcanon, but the idea that somehow Maul could come back went from trash storyline to maybe the best decision they could have made with that series because of how pivotal Maul plays in Rebels and other stories.
Yeah, I always think about, I was not watching Clone Wars at that time for whatever reason. And I remember reading that Maul was coming back, and like you, I was like, what? They've given up. And thank goodness they did, because holy cow, Maul is now probably one of my top 5 favorite Star Wars characters, and it's because of the work that they did in the Clone Wars to just to make him such a sympathetic, sad, evil character. It was so great. He's so great.
Well, and a lot of the credit there too goes to Sam Witwer's performance, who voices Maul in Clone Wars and in Rebels. I just, you know, we always say that, well, if you know, well, can you have this character come back in this movie? Like, should Ahsoka be in the Mandalorian season 2? Well, if they do it right, well, what does that mean?
Right.
But when they're like, well, what if they brought Maul from the dead? Well, if they do it right, what does that look like? Right. It looks like what we got in Clone Wars. So it's really spectacular.
I think that's something, you know, and it's another topic, and I know we're coming near the end, but it's an interesting point that Star Wars has been, over the last several years, back to Clone Wars, even in Mandalorian and Rebels, like, it's stories that were like, I don't know if we need this, and you get it, and you're like, wow, that was great. You know, Solo is a great example of that. Rogue One, a great example. Do we need this story? I don't know, but wow, we got it, and it's so good.
It's so good. And the whole reason I want to give Arezou credit here, because kind of the reason why we wanted to close out the episode this week with this topic was because she wrote this awesome article on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com that you can go to right now. And she actually lists 5 different scary moments in Star Wars that she thinks you need to know about in order to celebrate the spooky Halloween holiday. So definitely give that article a watch. And I've just really enjoyed what Arezou has done for the website. Can you believe next week it's going to be a month?
Woohoo!
It went by fast.
It really did.
Wait, is that right? Is my math wrong? Or
nope,
is it
that's right. That'll be 4 weeks.
Show, so it'll be
the 4th show.
It's been 3 weeks.
I'm proud of.
Next week will be my 4th show.
Right. I'm glad that we haven't scared you off yet. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, the show's not over yet. So.
Thanks, Pete. Love the optimism at the 57-minute mark. Gonna have to edit that out, put that on Twitter. Yeah, hey, join us for BTBD Live. It's not over yet. We can still F it up. We can still ruin the moment.
I didn't swear yet.
I'm sorry?
Shit, I missed it.
Oh, there it is.
That was it.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm glad. Does everyone have that out of their now? It's all right. We've kept our clothes on. It's been a long time since Pete dropped his pants. It's fine.
It's true. Well, you don't know.
Well, he forgot the camera was rolling. Hey, BTB Live.
This is gonna scare me off.
Oh my gosh! Stop! 94, episode 94 was a lot of fun. Before we go, let's do this. Let's jump into live chat one more time. See what everyone's talking about, and then we'll blast out of here because we got to get to our watering hole. Matthew H. 28 hours until we finally get Mando season 2. I'm mildly excited. Let's do this. Well, Pete, since you were the one that laughed, I'll let you go. What is the one thing that we have to? What is one thing we will see? You think in this first episode of The Mandalorian? What's your prediction for episode 1?
I think we're going to see the speeder bikes and the chase that we've seen in the previews. I think that's episode 1.
All right, Arezou, my question to you is this. In the first episode of season 2, will the child use or not use the Force in any way?
Ooh, good question.
At the end of the episode. For some pivotal reason.
I thought you were about to say, I don't know. And I was like, oh, friend, that's the point.
I was going to say, I don't know, maybe. But then I'm like, no, let's give a better answer. At the end of the episode, for some sort of plot changing reason.
Ooh, shout out. Okay, this is great. Shout out to all remaining systems Lair of Grievous, another spooky episode of Clone Wars, very atmospheric and creepy. Yeah, that's the one with Kit Fisto. Grievous has this like hidden lair. He's walking through, and you're seeing like all these different types of like his species armor and weapons, and then you're seeing like the factory that has like all of his all of his spare parts, arms, legs, vast. It's very creepy, very solid pick there. I love that pick. Is there anyone else throwing stuff out there? Matthew H called me an awkward man, so that's cool. Galanorian,
just like Luke Skywalker.
Stop it. I don't need this. I don't need it's not even empathy, it's pity. And there's a difference between the two. Galanorian Saber says, "Oh no, I lost Galanorian Saber." Anyway, he said something about, what did he say? He said the Dathomir episode.
Dathomir. He said Dathomir was creepy.
Yeah, that's right. Frammy. The reanimated Night Sisters that are encountered on Dathomir and Jedi Fallen Order are pretty scary, especially when they swarm. Have you two played Jedi Fallen Order? I still haven't had the chance to get on this.
I just finished like last week.
So awesome.
So do you guys agree with that take? The Night Sisters in that?
The first time, yeah. The first time you see them.
They're definitely creepy.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I need to get that. I mean, I know what happens at the end. I need to play it because sooner or later I'm hoping they announce a sequel for that series. So we will find out. I just really appreciate everyone coming out here and joining us for the episode. Comic Bricks, Ahsoka Rex, Boba Fett returning will be scary. Okay, that's a Mandalorian 2 prediction. Afro's Artifacts is with us. The scariest was the latest Vader comic. Ooh, that's a good point, but we won't give you that spoiler. You'll have to go to beyondtheblastdoors.com and read that spoiler review from Marie Wilson, or you can just buy the comic for yourself. I'm actually thinking about it now. There's like a lot more scary moments. We're going to have to do a Twitter thread tomorrow. I think that's what's going to happen. But
send it up there.
Guys, we've come to the end. We hit the hour mark. It's time to wrap this show up. Pete, I'm going to let you go. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to let Arezou go first because she's the lady in the room. Arezou, people want to follow you. Where's the best way to follow you?
So you can find me at Arezou Amin on Twitter. You can find me here every week on beyondtheblasters.com. You can also find me at my own site, arezoud2.com, where I'm doing all the book reviews, like about how good Heir to the Jedi is. You can find that there. So that's where you can find me. Stop it. It's good.
Was that an okay use of I don't do that often where I just put myself full. I thought that was kind of funny. I mean, no one else might think that was funny, but I laughed. Hey, Pete, where should we find you if we need to find you?
If you need to find me, you can go on Twitter at ATGcast. That's where you will find me. And every Tuesday, you can pick up another episode of Around the Galaxy. This past week, we had Mitch Dyer, who was the story writer on both Squadrons and Battlefront 2. We had such an awesome conversation. Make sure to check that out. And then next week, I'm debating whether or not we're going to drop an episode on Tuesday or not because it is Election Day. There's a lot more important things than Star Wars going on next Tuesday. But my next interview was with Adam Lance Garcia. So that will drop either next Tuesday or sometime shortly thereafter.
Remember, if you live in the States, for the love of God, vote. Okay? It's your right. It's not a privilege. It's right. Vote. It's going to be great. Vote for the better person. Okay, so that was my political block. What did you just do?
Well, no, I saw Matt Harrington wants a silver-colored knob Halloween song, and I'm wearing my silver-colored knob shirt. So.
Well played. You should do. Do you guys do holiday Star Wars themed songs?
It'd be tough to get it done by Friday, probably, but
okay, we'll work on it for next year.
Well, you can listen to our song "The Dark Side," which is a perspective on the dark side of the Force, told from Kylo Ren's perspective. So, and it's kind of dark and mean and evil. So,
well, if that doesn't sell you on that song, I don't know. I love
it. It's my favorite song we've done. So
it is the best one that you three have done. They're all fun, but that one's really good. I want to remind you also that you can always, you can follow me at Mo on there if you want to, but you can always follow the show at BTBD Star Wars. Always hit us up there to continue this Star Wars conversation. Keep up with the latest happenings with the show. We really appreciate you being with us. It has been. I don't want to get into it. It's been a shitty 48 hours, and it's been really nice to see you, Arezou and Pete, and to talk Star Wars, and just for like an hour, kind of tune out a lot of other stuff. So you guys are the best. I hope you have a great rest of the week. I hope people joining us live. I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I hope you I can't wait to get together on Friday and talk about The Mandalorian Season 2. That's what we're going to do, because 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to drop our recap of that episode. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching. Beyond the Blast Door. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Door, a Star Wars conversation.